Hey guys, in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how you can manually add your own CrazyTalk characters into your scene, as well as do a little bit of interactive scripting to have your characters pop up when an event happens, when a trigger happens. So in the last tutorial I kind of just ran you through the demo project. In this tutorial we're going to actually be adding in our own characters. So to start off, I'm going to be deleting these three characters that we had in our scene before in the previous tutorial. I'll just select those and delete them. And so now we just have our basic scene. Now to load in an actor, like I mentioned before, the first step you need to do is go to Load Actor. And now normally you'll have to select a layer as well for your avatar. Now I'm going to go ahead here and select Add Layer. And you can see we have a whole ton of layers. You can have like tons of characters on the screen at the same time. I'm not sure why you'd want to, but you have all those options anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and name a layer. Let's just call this layer Tutorial. Very original name. And we'll go down to the CrazyTalk tab again. And now when we select the layer, we should have the option for Tutorial. Alright, so then we want to add a CrazyTalk avatar project file. So I'll show you where that is. If we go to the CT plugin and we select this free demo material here, we have three different folders. There is CT idle, there is CT model, and CT script. Now CT idle contains all the idle animations that your character will exhibit when he or she is not doing anything. The CT model is all of the models, so the cat, the nobleman, the scientist, and the CT scripts. Those are all the animations, which include the lip syncing and the facial expression as well. So again, let's choose our layer, and let's go ahead here and select an avatar file. So we have in the model list, because the CrazyTalk plugin will just search through the assets for any compatible files, we have these available in this little pop-up window here. We have the cat, the nobleman, or the scientist. Alright, for this example, we'll just go ahead and use the nobleman because I think he has some pretty cool hair. So we'll go ahead and apply that nobleman, and then you'll see his image will appear in our little thumbnail here once all of his textures and materials are loaded in. So now that that's finished, let's go ahead and take a look here. We have the actor name, the folder path, everything looks good. We can choose to show or hide the actor initially. We'll just leave that on show for now. And of course the look at mode, look at strength, we talked about before in the last tutorial. You can preview the mouse look at, which looks okay right now. And we'll just go ahead and cancel that. And let's go ahead and set his position. So we'll set him to the bottom left. And let's scale him up a little bit as well. Scale him to about 2 times the size. And bring him up a little bit as well. And then if we preview that look at, you can see now he is looking around wherever the cursor is. Alright, and you can change the look at strength like I mentioned before. If you want no look at, put it down to 0. And for the actor depth, it's currently really low, so it's really close to the camera, but you can actually set it back further in your scene as well. It's totally up to you. So now that we have our actor loaded in, let's go ahead and load a motion. So we need some motions for our actor. And I'm going to go here and load some of the motions. And you can see again, the plugin finds the files in the assets folder, which are relevant. So we have the option for a default, pleasant, or upset idle motion. Let's go ahead and use this upset one, just because I like the eye twitching. And in the script list, we have all these different scripts that we can use. We can import in as many as we want. We can choose maybe Walter Norm. That'll be fine to start off. And just go ahead and apply. And that'll import those 2 motions into my animation list. So now we have this layer where this actor is loaded in. You can see it's right here, CT root 0, the nobleman, the camera like I mentioned before, which will have the culling mask automatically set to that layer. And let's go ahead and just close that down. So what I want to do now is make this a little bit interactive. And to do that, let's go ahead and create a separate folder here. Let's create a folder in the assets folder called, let's call it tutorial. Just keep things a little bit organized. And in this folder, I'm going to go ahead and create a script. So I'm going to right click and go ahead and create, we'll use C#, and let's call this script trigger. Because this script is going to act as a trigger when our first person controller actually bumps into one of these crates that's sitting in our scene here. They are useful for something, which is going to be trigger in just a moment. So let's go ahead and actually we need to add in first person controller as well. So again, I'm going to go to import a package and a character controller, and This will import in our character controller. We'll use a first-person character controller for this tutorial. Go ahead and import all that stuff in. And then I need to place my first-person controller in my scene, so I have something to trigger when it, something to cause the trigger in process. So let's go ahead down to standard assets. We have our character controller, first-person controller. We can just beautiful white capsule there. We'll just place it somewhere like that, and move it a little bit further up on our scene there. And we're good to go. We don't need to mess around with that anymore. Now we do need to create a trigger area, which we'll choose. We'll choose this blue crate right here. Now the first thing we want to do, obviously, is set this blue crate, the box collider. We need to set it as a trigger. So that means whenever our first-person controller enters there, it'll trigger an action. All right, so that's all set up. We have a trigger area. We have something to trigger the trigger. And let's go to tutorial now. And standard assets. Where is my script? I believe. Oh, everything's all disorganized here. Let's put it in the tutorial folder there, and we'll just open up that script. And what I want to do is kind of program in the code that is required to trigger this script. So the first thing I want to do, make sure your public class is at the trigger, and after that, I need to declare the plugin. So let's go ahead and say public CT plugin API. Whoops, CT plugin API. There we go. And let's call let's name our function CT API just like that, and semicolon. So basically here, if you're unfamiliar with the scripting, CT plugin API is kind of calling all the functions in the plugin, and whenever I use CT API in the code, it's going to allow me to call those different functions at different points in the code. Hopefully that makes sense, because I'm not really that good at coding myself. So let's go ahead and just keep that there. And what I want to do is, currently we have update. So update set here. So update is called once per frame. What I want to do is instead change this to on trigger. So I'm just going to change the comment here to keep things clear. Oops, on trigger. And let's go ahead and change this update, void update, to void on trigger enter. And let's name our collider. So we'll go collider, and let's just call it collusion. That sounds pretty cool. It could be collusion or collision, whatever you like. I'm just going to go ahead and continue on with collusion. And so first of all, what we need to do, the first function we need to call is CT API, and we need to dot show actor. So that's show actor right there. And when the trigger is activated, we need to set this to true. And then it starts from frame 0, or float 0, and then 0.2, and that's the duration of the fade right there. So let's go ahead and just keep that. And then, when our character appears, we actually need to make it do something. So let's go ahead and select CT API, API, and play. And let's go ahead and see which motion do we want to play again. I'm just going to go back over to Unity here, and let's select our character, and we want to play Walter Norm. I think Walter Norm should be fine. So Walter Norm, okay. So I need to put that in quotes. Walter Norm, just like that. And then false to start off, and then 0.0 there, and there we go. Now once our character is finished doing his animation, we also want to play the idle motion after that. So let's go ahead and CT API again, and set idle motion, which is right there. And the idle motion, I believe we chose the friendly one. Let me just double check that again. Upset, we chose upset. Okay, so upset in quotes again. And that should be good to have our character show up on the trigger. Oh, and before we return back to play mode in Unity, we need to, of course, make sure the naming is exactly correct. You can see here upset, and we have to put free in parentheses, because these are in fact free motions. So again, let's just type free right there, and within the quotes, free. So the naming doesn't really matter as long as it's within the quotes. Everything should be okay. So let's go ahead and Control S and save that. Go back to Unity. First of all, let's go to our load actor here, and let's make this guy invisible first, since we don't want him visible until we trigger the cube. Let's make sure the cube, we have the cube right here in the inspector. We also need to drag our trigger script over to the cube right there. And so now you see the script is set as trigger, and CT API, we need to select the model that we have set up here. So now we have the nobleman right there. That's the only current layer we have in our scene. So we'll just go ahead and double click him, and he should be assigned. So let's go ahead now and enter into play mode. So now in play mode, we have our little dude walking around, our little capsule walking around. When I hit this blue crate...
So it's either this or that, but we could consider the other.
Alright, so then he'll go into his idle, his upset idle right there, just kind of looking pretty peeved. But now when we exit the trigger area, he's still just in his idle position. So let's go ahead and set the on trigger exit. Let's go back to our code really quick. And after this is finished, let's go ahead then and create another void on trigger exit. And again, collider collusion right there. And the curly brace open. And now we have to use CT API.showActor. Oh, sorry, one sec. CT API.showActor. And we need to set this as false. And then 0.0 float, 0.2 float, and send that off. That should be okay. And after that, we want it to stop. So let's go ahead and use the CT API dot, oh goodness sakes, CT API dot stop right there. And we'll just set this to 0.0 float right there, and finish that off. And that should be okay. And we also have a documentation, of course, included with the CrazyTalk plugin, which gives you a list of all the different commands that are available. You can get that no problem. So you can browse through that to see all of the possibilities for each different function. So let's go ahead and save this, and let's return to our scene. So now we have our scene right here. We'll go directly into play mode. We need to go back, and looks like we need to close our curly braces there. Let's go ahead and do that, and then save. I think that should fix it. I often make that problem. Alright, so now play mode should be working just fine. Alright, we have our little dude walking around, and he's going to walk into that crate.
So it's either this or that, but we could consider the other.
Okay, and...
Alright,
so basically we've set that all up. So that's essentially how you can use your CrazyTalk resources that you export from CrazyTalk 7, your talking, smiling actors, and you can include them in your scene with a simple trigger, first-person controller. I know my character walking around doesn't really look like much, but that's just kind of a run-through of how you can use the CrazyTalk plugin in an actual game scenario. So thanks for watching, and hopefully you learned something about how you can incorporate the CrazyTalk 7 workflow characters into your gaming workflow. And stay tuned for more tutorials. We'll have more on different things, such as including 3D models in your scene, or rather not 3D models, 2D images in a 3D scene. So like on an image of a picture frame within your 3D environment, and also show you how to map those 2D images to your character's face as well. 2D images to your 3D character's face. So it looks like your 3D character has a different face. So again, thanks for watching, and make sure to check out our YouTube channel for more info on how to use CrazyTalk 7.